Hi, everyone. I'm Anthony Ramos from GLAAD, the world's largest LGBTQ media advocacy organization. And today I'm very excited to be talking to the stars and the writer and director of the film you just saw, Supernova. So please say hello to Colin Firth, Stanley Tucci, and Harry Macqueen. How are you all?
Oh, good.
Thank you. Very well.
Thank you.
Well, congratulations on this film. It's a beautiful film. But Colin and Stanley, if I may start with you, because I was surprised that, because you have known each other for a long time, you've been friends, and I was surprised that I hadn't seen you cross over and film more. So I guess, Stanley, if I can start with you, what was it like to do this film with, Colin, who's a good friend of yours?
It was great. It was, we've worked together a couple times, but once was 20 years ago, once was almost 10 years ago. And I had, we'd always wanted to work together again. I had actually offered Colin some roles in movies I was directing and he turned me down.
I think
that didn't help. But no, we'd always wanted to work together again. And then when Harry sent me this, I instantly thought of Colin. And I told Harry that I thought Colin would be, great. And of course, Harry didn't know that I had slipped it to Colin already. And so Colin read it and said, yes, this is absolutely beautiful. And then it just went from there. But working together was just, it was a joy to work with one of your best friends, a person that you love so much and whom you admire so much, and with whom you've shared a lot over 20 years, a lot of really happy things and a lot of really sad things too. And that, of course, helps inform, your performances.
Colin, do you want to add anything to that experience?
It will be much the same answer. But when I got it from Stanley, I was yet to know anything about Harry. And so all I had was the words on the page and the fact that this would be with Stanley. We were in different roles notionally at the time. I wasn't quite sure which roles we were being asked to do, or Stanley was being asked to do. I didn't even know if I was invited at all. But either way, it just was so wrapped up in my familiarity with Stanley and our relationship that I was immediately attracted to it. I mean, it didn't, sometimes you're looking at it, this is a film script. Do you think it's a yes? Do you think it's a no? Who's directing? This didn't feel like that. This felt like an invitation to an experience. And, I had to cross two bridges. One was finding out if I was invited and whether this Harry Macqueen guy was even remotely interested in me being involved. And the other was, well, what is he about? And so I watched the only thing that was available about, that Harry had done, which was his first film, Hinterland. And he completed the picture because, I had this sense of this beautiful and almost kind of Zen-like simplicity to the writing. But I didn't know what he was about as a director until I saw Hinterland. And I thought if that's the DNA, if that's the nature of this, and that's what Stanley and I can inhabit together, and that it had things in common. I mean, they both have the road trip element. And I think one of the things I said to Stanley is it's so unusual to find something that's wired in to have silences, that we can inhabit, that this is not going to be afraid of space, of what is not said. And I think I found that incredibly appealing, and it's exactly how it turned out.
I couldn't agree more. Harry, if I can go to you, as I mentioned, you wrote and directed this film. Can you tell me a little bit where the inspiration and kind of the thought to tell this story came from?
Yeah, of course. Well, about 5 years ago, I was like, every out of work actor on the planet, working in a bar or whatever. And I happened to be working with this lady, middle-aged lady, in one of the jobs I was doing. And I worked with her for a year, and over the course of the year, she changed dramatically from being someone who was really lovely and really funny and fun, to being someone who was almost the opposite of that. And she got sacked, got fired from the job. About 6 months later, I found out through a mutual friend that she had been diagnosed with young onset dementia. So what I'd actually been watching, tragically, although I didn't know it and she didn't know it, was her changing because of this condition. And about a year after that, sadly, she had passed away, and it really had a really profound effect on me. And I just wanted to learn more about dementia and young onset dementia specifically, because I thought it was fascinating, and you know, sort of a very interesting thing to watch firsthand. And so I researched the topic for a couple of years. I volunteered at lots of charities and worked at University College London, which is the dementia kind of hub in the UK. And through that, kind of met loads of people who are living with dementia, sort of families, people on their own, couples, married couples, you know, of a similar age to Colin and Stanley. And so the film really is inspired by all of those experiences, the time that I was lucky enough to spend with people who are living with it. So yeah, it's a very personal film, as they always are, but that's where it originated.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Stanley, did you have any sort of experiences with any friends or colleagues or family when it comes to, you know, with early onset dementia that you were able to kind of draw from to play this?
No, I never.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, I never had. I don't. It doesn't. It's not something that seems to run in my family, which we know that it is. There is a genetic element to it. And I'd never met anyone with early onset. So the only way to approach it was using the research that Harry gave me, and then sort of digging a little bit deeper. And that really entailed, meeting with the doctor that we met with, and him showing us some footage of people, and then documentaries and, you know, medical journals written about it. The documentary stuff was absolutely vital in figuring out how you behave, and it was very hard. It was very hard to watch, and I can only imagine how hard it is for people living with it, but also people who are living with people living with it. It's a brutal thing.
It absolutely is.
Very unfair. It's just terribly unfair.
Harry, you know, first off, I so appreciate that there's a film that shows a gay couple who have been together for many, many years. I feel like a lot of the time we see representation with coming out, or, you know, someone that's younger and the early parts of the relationship. But thinking about this story, you could have just as easily made this a heterosexual couple, yet it was important to you and intentional for you to tell it from, you know, a same-sex couple. So tell me a little bit about at what point, I guess, did you make that decision?
I think when I very, very first thought about this story, largely probably because it was inspired, as I said, by the people that I'd been, you know, lucky enough to spend some time with. None of those people happened to be in a same-sex relationship. My immediate thought was that it would be a heterosexual couple at the heart of it, and then very, very quickly I, you know, countered that and wanted to investigate why that was my initial thought. Because ultimately, as you'll know, having seen the film, what we're talking about really are universal things. We're talking about love, we're talking about commitment, we're talking about death, we're talking about trust, and we're talking about dignity. And I think because of that, it makes, like you say, I mean, it makes it could very easily have been a heterosexual couple. And I think because it isn't, and because the narrative isn't impacted in any way by the sexuality of the characters, it felt to me like, you know, quite an original thing to do, and an important thing to do. Because I think also we don't make films very often about romantic love between two people of a certain age. and we certainly don't make a lot of films about romantic love between two people of the same gender at a certain age. So I just, you know, I hopefully strive to make, you know, forward-thinking cinema and tell original stories. So I think once I'd realized that could be, you know, a unique and important story to tell, it became, you know, one of the defining things about the film, you know, in its totality, really. So I think it's, I'm very glad that we made that decision. Very glad, and I think it's, I think obviously Colin and Stanley performed that beautifully. So yeah.
No, we're very glad that you did. You know, Stanley, thinking about that for you as an actor, what, you know, element do you think that this story being told from a gay couple, what you know, element do you think that adds to the story that, you know, you hope audiences, you know, take away from?
I think it starts to level the playing field in a way, and I think that's really important. There has been so much prejudice against homosexuality, so much divisiveness in America and the world about the rights of gay people, whether can they get married, should they adopt children, and all that sort of stuff, which to me is just, I don't even know why those questions are even raised. And for that reason, I really loved it, because what it shows is it doesn't, to me, love is love. When you love somebody, you love them, whether they're the same sex as you, or whether, you know, and Harry showed that just beautifully. And there's no, could you do it with a heterosexual couple? Yeah. I don't think it would be as interesting. I think it's more interesting this way. And the fact that their homosexuality isn't even discussed. It's not even talked about. It's just, this is the way it is. And that's the beauty of it, is that hopefully, you know, people will see that, again, when you just, everybody in a loving relationship goes through all the same things of, you know, what Colin said and what Harry said: dignity, loss, trust, confusion, fear, death, illness. It's all there. We're all the same. We're all going to experience the same things. You know, as soon as we realize that, my God, things will be so much easier.
I could not agree more. Colin, do you want to add anything to that in terms of, you know, what you hope that people that see Supernova, what they take away from the film? Well,
I mean, it contains a huge amount, you know, the things we've discussed up to now. In terms of it being about a same-sex couple, it's written in a way that, you know, I got this, I just thought, well, who else could this be but Stanley? It's Tusker and Sam. Why not? I mean, why the hell not, for a start? But also, I didn't even think I got as far as why not. It was just, this is who these guys are. That's what felt so kind of, you know, it had fulfilled that already to me. I didn't really see, well, why would you switch out this for a different person, a different actor, a different character, someone of a different gender? It just felt so as it should be and as it is. And you know, it didn't seem to be, I didn't feel a decision behind it, or particularly feel whether it adds anything, or I couldn't see anybody else but Tusker being Tusker, Sam being Sam, and Stan had to be Tusker. And so, you know, to me, it's just, I defy anybody in the world to give you one reason on earth why it shouldn't be exactly this, you know, as a way of telling the story of the experiences of these two people.
No, I couldn't agree more. And the story is so beautiful. And I have to say that the scenes of the two of you in the RV hit very close to home. I've been in that exact position with my partner arguing, and it was. But anyway,
does one of you prefer the sat nav and the other one doesn't? Is that?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the RV is definitely his idea, not mine.
Does he ever crash the RV out of interest? Because
no, thank
We
you.
don't.
Okay, just checking.
But anyway, thank you, all three of you, so much for this conversation. Thank you so much for making the film. We couldn't be more happy that it's been made and people will see it, and hopefully, you know, like you said, be open to it and realize that love is love. Exactly. So thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.